Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have joined. We're going to be giving you the 12 dementia care holiday do's and don'ts. But we're going to start with the don'ts first because we want to end with happy stuff and positivity with the do's. My name is Paige Fairbanks-Gunn. I'm one of the regional directors for Kelch Communities, and I am in the Arizona. I live in Arizona, and I have the Arizona and Colorado region. I've been working with seniors, and dementia has been part of my life for over 25 years. And I've worked with several families over the years, and we are happy to be having you join us today for this important topic and hopefully give you some successful tools. And please feel free to add your questions or comments in the chat. We do encourage those. So thank you very much. And I have my wonderful partner here, Pam.
Yes, the
Pam.
partner in crime. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope you're excited about hearing about our dementia holiday do's and don'ts. As someone who lived a 14-year journey with my mom having Alzheimer's, I can tell you that I've lived the ups and the downs, and I'll share some of my stories. I am the author of It's Not That Simple, Helping Families
Yay.
Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. And Paige and I met because my mom actually was in a Kelch community for 3 years in memory care. And it was just such a positive experience. And in my guidebook, I talk about all of the emotions we go through, but also how do we communicate with people like the staff at memory care? How do we manage these emotions that we have, especially at the holidays? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I did want to say one thing. This is a conversational type of webinar. It is not a presentation. You're not going to see slide decks here unless you guys ask for them, and we can do that. But we have a conversation about our perspectives based on our experience. And so I've had 25 years of experience, so has Paige. So we've lived the life that you're encountering right now, the journey you're on in dementia care. And if you receive these webinar invitations and you do not want them for some reason, please just reply to the email. Don't hit unsubscribe at the bottom because that affects our deliverability of our future emails to everyone else. Yeah, welcome to software. So again, just reply back and say, nah, I'm not interested anymore. And that's totally fine. But we do need you to reply to the email and not hit unsubscribe. So, all right. So let's kick off. I'll kick off with the first don't. And as Paige said, we're going to do the don'ts first. And we have 6 of those and then 6 do's. And then again, please put your information in the chat if you'd like to and say hello to us and where you're from. So thank you from hello from the prairies, Canada. So the first don't worry about the past or the future. So it's so easy as a dementia care provider to sit there. You normally would have, 5, 10 years ago, wonderful holidays, busy family, kids, grandkids, whatever, running around, lots of cookie baking and engagement and conversations and memory sharing of past Christmases or past holidays. And now that's not the case. And I understand that because Christmas was always a really big deal at my house. And my mom made all these cookies, lots and lots and lots of cookies. And, the ability for her to even, she enjoyed eating them, as most people with dementia do love sugar. But it just didn't seem the same. And one year, she actually, probably right before her birthday, so beginning of October, she kind of went comatose. She would sit in her wheelchair with her head down as if she was sleeping, and it would take a lot of effort to wake her up. And that lasted for 6 months. So it went all the way through Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and the rest of, the beginning of the year, the next year. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my gosh, she's not with us, but she's not gone. And so I was obsessed with this particular don't. And it really changed how my dad and I celebrated Christmas, and it changed my holiday. And so the best thing to do is just live with them in the present. So I would stroke her hand or rub her back. I would sing Christmas carols to her. I would do things that I knew she could hear me, but that she just wasn't engaging. So that would be, the do, one of our big don'ts is stay right here in the present. Paige, do you have any thoughts or examples on that?
Yes. Well, you know, I had issues. Well, it was about my dad. My dad passed away. It'll be Christmas Eve. It'll be 3 years. And I really, wanted things. And I've been in the business for a long time, but it's different when it's your own family member. And
Very true.
dad had a fall. There was COVID going on. He was not in his home. He was living in a skilled nursing unit. And I was envisioning, all the Christmases that we had had together and really was expecting to really put on a good performance and try to make that happen. And so it was really stressful. I mean, holidays are extremely stressful as it is. And I was really trying to create and do a lot of things to make it the best for him. And so I really had to check myself and remind myself as a professional and take my heart out of it and really ground myself and say, my dad is going to be fine the way that I deliver anything to him and give him a good experience. Yes, it was different. He was in a nursing home, and we made it very simple. And we had a lot of laughs, and I brought music that he loved to listen to. And he sat in his wheelchair and he loved enchiladas, made enchiladas. It was very simple. We listened to his favorite music and had enchiladas. And I mean, he was so happy. And I really had to think about not trying to overstress and make it more than what it needed to be.
Yeah.
And it really worked out just fine. And I think that was something that, I like to, convey to families that try not to overstress and make it something that, maybe used to be, because they're different. They're
Yeah.
totally different.
Yep.
And we have to change with that. And it doesn't have to be, it's not bad. It's just a little bit different. So a little bit more less is more and a little bit simpler.
Yep.
And it's
And
easier on you as a caregiver.
yeah, and the thing I would encourage that I wish, like we didn't have back in the day, we didn't have all these cool
No.
cameras on our phones. But I really always tell my clients to take photos, take videos, so you can hear their voice, you can hear their words, and you can play
Yes.
that back. When they're gone, I hate to say it, but you do forget what they sound like. And you remember what they
Yes.
would say or how they behave, but you don't necessarily remember what they sound like. So definitely do as much recording as you possibly can during those happy moments. All right,
Yep.
Paige, what's the second don't?
Okay. Second don't go to busy, crowded restaurants with your loved one. But this includes shopping too. So, not overly crowded places are too overwhelming. We had a lady a couple years ago, I remember she had her mom in one of our Kelch communities, and she ended up taking mom, and it was way too much for her to, she took her to one of the family dinners, and it was Christmas Eve. And we explained to her and tried to coach her, less is more, less people. Well, there was about, I mean, I think there were over 30 people. And they didn't prepare all the family members, about how mom was. Of course, the daughter knew how she was doing and how progressed her dementia was, but there wasn't a lot of, preparing the family. And it was so overwhelming when she ended up bringing her mom back. Her mom, it was about 48 to 72 hours, mom was extremely confused, extremely anxious, very tired, and she wasn't herself.
Oh,
And it was just overwhelming. It was just
yeah,
too much coming in, and it wore her out completely.
yeah.
And
And that's
and it
not
was
the
just not good.
objective. right? It's just not
No,
the objective.
no.
The other thing to take into account in that situation is that my mom was deaf in one ear and had really sensitive hearing in the other, which is kind of odd. But I happen to have the same thing. So so no, loud noises and all the things that happen in a restaurant or in a busy house, because a lot of times we cram a lot of people into our houses during the holidays. We don't want to leave anybody out. So
Right.
instead, it's just too noisy and it takes over their world and they can't differentiate. And then think about it, if you go to a restaurant, they have to read the menu. And the worst thing you can do is have somebody say to you when you can barely hear, what are you going to order? And especially if you go to like the place like Cheesecake Factory, their menu is like this big. So, trying to read that, they can't necessarily read it. And so it's like, well, what would you like? And they're just done. They're ready to
Mhm.
get up and leave. And we'll
We,
talk about leaving in the middle of things in a little bit.
yeah, a
But
couple of
and
those.
yes. But the other thing, Paige, is uh I was always worried because my mom had a lot of lung issues. And when you go to a
Um,
public environment or you have lots of little kids with runny noses, she would get sick. She would have, the flu or a
mhm.
cold and a chest cold. And it was just safer to do what we're going to talk about, which is to keep things a little bit smaller and a little bit safer. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, Pam, because this is that holiday season is flu season, RSV, the
yeah.
crowded areas are, and their immune systems are just not, they're not as strong as they used to be. So
Yeah.
there's a risk too.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't think about that. We're so busy, what are we having for dessert? What are we having for the appetizers? And I mean, you're just thinking about so many different things and who's coming, who's not coming, and where can we sit them? And you don't think about some of their special needs. So, all right,
Yep.
number three, don't expect the holidays with your loved one with dementia to be the same as previous years. So,
Yeah.
making new memories is what you have to focus on.
Mhm.
Because if you carry the past with you, as I said in the first don't, you're going to expect something from them they cannot give you. And that
Yep.
just leads to disappointment and frustration and not a happy holiday, I might add. So they remember emotions. And
Mhm.
so be happy. It doesn't matter. Like you could bring them a candy cane and you could both have candy canes and because they're not going to know how to unwrap it necessarily, depending on the level of your loved one. Or bring some muffins. My mom used to love it when I would bring blueberry muffins and Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And that was her holiday. I mean, trust me, it's like what Paige was saying. If you keep this simple, they can
Mhm.
they can assimilate it and they're like, oh wow, I haven't had one of these muffins and it has the sugar crumbles on top and a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And like she was in heaven. So
Mhm.
so create new memories. Don't expect old memories to be recreated. And Paige, I think you have an example of a few of your
Oh,
families, residents who have kind of need to learn that lesson, huh?
yes, yes. I had this happen and I remember this like yesterday and this happened last year in a different one of our communities. Mom was high functioning. We had coached the daughter quite a bit, but she didn't tell us what she was going to do. Mom loved to shop. So daughter comes and picks her up about 4 or 5 days before Christmas, took her out to the mall, and they were gone for 7 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And when the daughter came back, she was, she was like, oh my gosh, I should have never taken her out, and especially taken her out that long. Because when they went to the mall, mom was pretty high functioning for the most part, ambulatory, very, she was very social. Well, the daughter just kind of let her go on her own in the store and they're looking at things. Well, she wandered off. She wandered off and it was during the Christmas time, so it was very busy. Well, she ended up in the food court area and I mean it was about 30 45 minutes where it was full panic mode, calling, getting the store manager, they're calling security. I got to show you a picture of my mom, what she looks like. I mean, that was very, very scary because mom had no idea. She's just like, oh, I'm going to go over here and, go talk to these people, or I'm hungry. I smell food. I'm going to go to where the food is. That was
Right.
very scary, very scary.
Yeah.
So that was not good.
And
Not
it's
good.
and it's sad too because the daughter was trying to do recreate a memory.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and as someone who was doing this for 14 years, living this, trying to recreate a memory is a bad idea.
Yes. Yes.
So instead, pick something else. And you guys have the Kelch, some of the Kelch communities have Main Street where you can actually stay
Mhm.
inside the memory care community and shop, right?
Yeah, we do. We do have some Main Street where they can go down and shop and have that experience. And I mean, in this circumstance, we told the daughter because she was pretty high functioning. I just said, if you wanted to take mom shopping, just take her to one store, make it small,
For an
and make sure,
hour.
for an hour, and that you have her on the cart, you're on the other side, or whatever that may be. But make sure you are with her at all times, and make
Yeah,
it one
yeah.
store and and,
You
and an
live and
hour.
learn, right? You
Yep.
live and learn. So, all
Yep.
right. Well, no, what's number four don't, Paige?
The number four don't spend your time reminiscing with your loved one. This is a big one. We've had, family members come in, and this is another example where it's a daughter, and mom used to love to bake cookies, so she brought the ingredients in and was in our kit, and we've got two little well, both of our dining rooms, they have kitchens to where they can go in, and we have a club room where they can go in and do these things and do an activity one-on-one with their loved one. And she's getting out all the ingredients, and she's like, Mom, don't you remember? We used to love to make these cookies together. You remember? Um, that is not, try to remove that language from, don't pull that verbiage out of your language. And instead, and it was causing mom more confusion because there were too many steps. I mean, these weren't just chocolate
Mhm.
chip cookies. I can't remember what they were, but there was a lot of ingredients and they were homemade. I'm one that just throws something in a box and here we go. It wasn't that. And, mom was more confused, and then it made her feel uncomfortable because the daughter kept saying, Mom, don't you remember we used to make these cookies? So, the next time she ended up bringing just the cookies in, and we said, tell mom something, just don't say, don't you remember? Or do you remember? Because they don't
Right,
remember those things. And I know
right,
it's really hard. It's really hard because it was probably something that they did when she was a child.
right.
And it was a long time memory. So that was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah. And I remember making cookies with my mom since I was a little girl. We had matching aprons. And
Oh,
it was so cute. I wish I knew where they went. It
so
was a
fun.
yeah, cute little matching aprons. And so the suggested terminology or language would be, I remember when we made these when I was 12 years old and we did this and this and this. So tell the story of what you remember as being special. Because obviously, creaming the butter with the sugar and the eggs and everything, we're all that's kind of normal. But to be able to say what's special to you, if they're
Yes.
high functioning, they may pick up on some of those things and laugh and smile.
Hmm.
And they think about it, especially if it's a mother-daughter thing. The mother is enjoying her daughter reminiscing, and that
Yes.
brings her joy. So
Yes.
this is a real science to think about how you communicate with someone with dementia, because little things take on bigger meaning than we anticipate. So we have to be appreciative of that. And I remember I had one woman, I do a dementia questions and answer session in person with people. And we had a big group that day, and the woman said, I don't know why he can't remember things. I mean, I sat down and when I had him sit down and look at the photo album, and I said, remember when we did that? And remember when you got this award? And remember when you did that? And same thing, Paige. And I
Yeah.
said, "Did you say that the entire time?" And she said, "Yeah. I mean, why didn't he, like, these are memories from 30 or 40 years ago. Why didn't he remember them?" And I said, "Well, it doesn't really matter why he didn't. The point is you made him feel badly by saying, 'Remember when?' You made him feel like a failure, like, 'Oh, I can't remember that. I can't remember that that happened.'" And so if she just changed it and said, "I remember the day that you received this award. You were so
Mhm.
happy and so honored. And you talked with this guy who's John, and that guy who's Al, and that guy who's
Mhm.
Joe, and they were all your friends. And it was such a happy day. Thank you for that memory." So it's really important that we keep that in mind when we talk. And yes, Adele, that's what we've just said: is don't live in the
Yeah.
past.
Right.
So
And
we,
you're absolutely right, Pam. It's we have to remember for them. Depending on if they can't remember it, but when you are telling them, I remember mom when we used to make these cookies and you taught me how to do that. And this is such a special time. I mean, that they feel that. That makes them feel so good.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And I'm just popping something into the chat for. So that was the number one don't, which I think Adele missed too.
Adele's absolutely right.
Yep, that's exactly what we're talking about. And
Yes.
yeah, so, and I'm glad everybody's keeping track. You guys are sharp. All right, so we want to move on to number five. The number five don't is don't do an activity that traps you. I'm thinking
Ooh.
if you're on a train, a plane, a bus,
Hmm.
a car, or you're going to an event where you can't leave. So think of a movie, a concert, a play, um, and it may be something you think that that person would love, that they've always loved the Nutcracker, or
Hmm.
they've always loved
Right.
listening to, a pops orchestra play Christmas songs. But they're in a different frame of mind now. And their attention span, their bodily needs, all of those things are different now. And I didn't realize that in the first like 3 years of mom being in memory care. The care community said, "Well, we're going to load everybody up in a van and we're going to do a Christmas light tour." And my mom loves Christmas lights. So she's in a wheelchair. And so we motored her up the ramp, put her in the van. I sat next to her and we take off. And, the community's in a quieter area, but they had to get onto a busy street in order to get to the neighborhood with the Christmas tree lights. And all of a sudden she starts going, "Oh, oh," and she's starting to really panic. And so I was like, "What is wrong?" And I said, "Mom, those are just car headlights." But
Mhm.
she didn't know what they were. They just looked like they were coming at her. And like a car would hit her or hit the van. And so I stood in front of her and blocked her view of the street in front of us and held her hands and said, "It's going to be okay. We're going to go see Christmas lights and we're going to go, see all sorts of things like Rudolph and Santa." And I was trying to calm her down. And then by then they had turned and gone into the neighborhood so that she would calm down again. But I didn't anticipate that happening at all. And there was nothing we could do because we were
Mhm.
trapped inside that van. So,
Right.
keep that in mind. So, Paige, do you have an example of not getting trapped?
Yeah, not getting trapped. You had mentioned the Nutcracker, symphony. These are times of, holiday performances, a play, the symphony. I would highly not recommend something like that if you feel that your loved one is, the attention span, depending on their level, their stage of dementia, because it overwhelms them. Anxiety, you have people around you that don't understand that your loved one has dementia. So that it might cause a scene. So short outings or short visits to an event, have an out. Always have a plan B and a plan C of an escape to be able to redirect or deflect a situation. So long performances, long concerts, things like that. It usually is overwhelming for them.
Yeah. And even nowadays, I know I live up in the Denver area and hey, Cynthia. So we were talking about some of the suburb areas have their own holiday celebrations and
Mhm.
lights and different Santa Claus and kids ice skating, and there's all sorts of stuff that happens around here. And being able to go out if they're mobile specifically, but if they're not, put them in a wheelchair and just say, I'm going to cart you around so you can see everything and just enjoy it and not worry about your knees or your hips or anything like that. And make it a treat as opposed to, oh, you can't do this. And and then you can do that for a half hour or 45 minutes and you're not
Right.
locked into a time frame, right? So
You
yeah,
do the drive instead. 30-minute drive
right.
around the block, looking at Christmas lights, something like that. Then
Yep, bundle
you're in
up and open those
control.
windows.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah,
Absolutely. All
absolutely.
right, Paige, it looks like we're on number 6. What is number 6 dumped?
Number 6, don't. Do not take over their holiday. Please allow them to be as independent as possible. This one is if you don't use it, you lose it. And just because they have dementia doesn't mean they've lost every capability of doing something. So we don't want to treat them like children and just take over. I've noticed that, when we are doing a holiday craft in one of our memory care communities, sometimes the kids will come in and we were doing holiday wreaths and they're coming in and they're just doing it for mom, and that's not good. They can still do things. Maybe they need a little bit of help, but still asking them, which color do you like? Do you like the pink ball, the green, or the red ball? And making sure that they still have choices. And if they can't make that choice, redirect and just, what I think the pink one looks good. And just help them that way. But make sure that you're not taking over and doing things for them because they still are in there and they can still do things.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an excellent example of how to present choices. For me, I don't know if there's anybody else here who's a perfectionist or a control freak, but I raise my hand in that category. Um, and so when we had different types of crafts at the memory care at Kelsch, they I would be like, "Oh, well, here, mom, hold, do it in the green," and I'd point, and I would almost like grab her hand and help her. And so one of the guys came up, one of the caregivers who was male, and he said it loud enough for me to hear it. He said, "Loretta, she's kind of bossy, isn't she?" And my mom burst out laughing and nodded her head. Now, she was late stage
Oh.
at this point, but it was so funny. And then the activities director sent me a picture. It is the cutest picture. I still have it. And it's a picture of mom with this massive chef's hat. And it was red and green and white. And she had her arm around the mixing bowl and she had a spoon and she was mixing cookie dough and she was smiling. And I thought, yeah, that I learned from that she's capable of doing things and I need to let her do them. And you know what? Who cares if the bird ornament is pink and not blue? It's the
Yeah,
moment, it's the fun. And sometimes you can create the funniest memories of things, that you just didn't expect if you just let go of that need to control.
yeah, absolutely. It's our change. We have to
Right.
change.
It's us. We have to change how we
We have to
think.
change. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And it's hard, guys. But keep trying. And if you need help,
Yes.
email me or Paige and say, I'm struggling with this or
Yes.
this happened. Now, how do I not do that in the future? And we're happy to help you. All right. Well, drum roll. We're on to the good
Yay!
news.
We have the
Woohoo!
positive. Yay, we have the
Yeah, the positive
positive.
ones. All right. So the first do is keep the holiday celebrations with your elderly loved ones small. And I personally think well, I'm not a real people person, so I'm like a 6 to 8 number of people. But Paige, I'd be interested in what you have to say when you have your turn. But it goes back to them feeling left out. So
Mhm.
if you have a loud, jokester relative in the family and, he's telling jokes and everybody's laughing except for your mom or your dad. And it's because they don't understand the joke. They've lost that
Yeah.
capacity to process humor in that way. And they may think something else is funny, like if somebody falls, but they don't understand verbal jokes necessarily, and that's it. The disease is very unique, as you guys know, and so every single one of you is having a different holiday experience.
Mhm.
And but I do know that all of us have the person in our family who kind of takes over and becomes the holly jolly
Oh,
guy
yeah.
or gal, and it's a matter of, well, why don't we just invite him to the big party and we'll have a smaller party for the older people who, want a little quieter, mellower, Perry Como, Dean Martin in the background, and bear in mind, I'm going to insert something here that I didn't plan on talking about, but food. Um, because if you prepare a really big meal like you used to have, and like they may not want ham and green bean casserole and peas and carrots and all the stuff that people fix for the holidays. They may want fried chicken.
Yeah.
And my mom loved chicken. And so if they want something different, and Paige, we were talking about this before the session started, the F word, people, and we're talking flexibility.
Yes. Flexibility.
So have lots of options available that don't involve your traditional holiday food, because they may pivot on you and say, I don't want
Exactly.
that. So,
Yes.
so yeah. So what are your thoughts on keeping the holiday group separate or smaller for your older loved ones? Maybe have a separate celebration.
Maybe have a separate one, but I want to address Steve. Hi, Steve. I'm glad
Okay.
you're on here.
Hey,
So
Steve.
he brought up a great point. He said, Paige, doesn't this okay, so we're having a big function for our memory cafe this Friday, and it is a luncheon for our caregivers and the care receivers, the one that have dementia. So we've done this will be our fourth year doing it, Steve, and we 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 encourage them to bring their loved ones that are at home with them. We some of them, if they're in a community, we don't encourage them to pull them out of the community to bring them to this event. You can, however, it may cause more anxiety and more confusion, but you can bring them. And I do have some people that are bringing their loved one, but it's going to be pretty short. We're going to have Santa, we're going to have music, they're going to eat, and it's going to be a real quick, hour and a half to 2 hours. And some people only come for about an hour, hour and a half. So, and we're going to have probably, I think our max is about 60 people at this
Oh,
event.
so relatively small,
And it's a
but yeah.
very large room. And we do have other areas at our independent living because we're doing it at our independent living. There's other areas that they can take their loved one if they get, agitated or anxious. And they're offering adult daycare at the dementia hub for those that don't want to bring their loved one or feel that it's overwhelming. So hopefully
To
that
keep in
answers.
mind is we don't want to isolate them. So we're not
Right,
saying leave them at home, closed,
right,
and bring them a meal, bring them a turkey leg or whatever. No, the stimulation is good for everyone's brains, including theirs.
right.
So you
Yeah.
want stimulation. You don't want overwhelming stimulation.
Right. And
So
this
if
situation too is these are all people that understand dementia.
Mhm.
These are all people that have been together for a long time and everyone knows how to interact with the ones with dementia.
An
If you're
educated group.
bring Yes, so if you're bringing your loved one to, a group of 20 or 30 people in your family that haven't been around your loved one that understands the dementia, there's strategic planning that's involved. So this group is really very understanding and very well knowledgeable about, their loved one's dementia and others as well. So it's a little kind of bit of a different strategy, but going back to the holiday celebration in your own home, my sweet spot's about 10 people. And I think that, really understanding the relationships with your loved one, with, with them coming to this celebration, and strategic planning is first and foremost the most important, making sure that you are preparing the other family members and being very transparent about your loved one's dementia and really where they are.
Yeah.
Try not to be, don't be embarrassed about if they've progressed to the point or they maybe can't answer certain things. You're doing them a service by educating everyone in the family about where they are today so they can be
Right.
prepared.
And you, as you well know, I mean, on that day, things may go one way or another, right? So,
Right.
but for the family to know, mom can't follow instructions anymore, so don't
Mhm.
hand her the casserole and say, put that on the table. Like my mom lost the ability to follow instructions early on in the disease. And
Right.
so if you'd given her that, she'd have just stood there with it and held it. And another family member who didn't know the situation would be like, well, why are you standing there? And it's like, well, I don't know what to do with this. So
Right.
so just helping them understand what they can do, what they can't do, at least in a general sense, because it could be different on that day, because again,
Right.
flexibility, the very popular word that we all caregivers all use frequently.
Everything
So
is fluid, subject to
yes.
change at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Yes,
Paige, what
yes.
is number two, our number two do?
Our number two do is keep your activities with your loved one simple. Um, you know, keep it simple. Again, kind of going back to the lady that brought the ingredients in and doing the baking of the cookies. The next time that she did this, she ended up bringing the cookies and they frosted the
Yeah,
cookies.
icing cookies is fun. It makes a big
Icing
mess.
cookies. It was much easier for her, and mom enjoyed it. The daughter wasn't overwhelmed and stressed out, and she felt like mom felt good because she could still do that task.
All right,
So,
and success, right?
it was success. It was a successful event, and they had a good time. And it was she was only there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and they
Mhm.
had a wonderful time. It was enjoying in the moment.
Yeah.
It's enjoying in the moment.
Stay where your feet
What about
are.
you?
Yep,
Stay where your feet
exactly.
are. What about
Yeah.
you, Pam?
Well, so we used to paint ornaments. Kelch had these wooden ornaments and we would, paint something. And then we would take them because they would dry and we'd ice cookies or eat cookies is probably more like it. I'm just admitting,
Yes.
saying the truth. We were going to eat cookies. And then when they dried, then I would wheel mom over to the Christmas tree and she could hang, the ornaments. And again, success. It was, I made this and my daughter made that and mine looks better. And and the caregivers used to tease her all the time about me, and it'd be like, "Well, Loretta, I think you did a much better job than Pam did." So, so they're always picking on me, but it was fun. We were always laughing and
Yes.
engaging her, and she felt like she was part of it, and that is so important at any point in time. That's not even a holiday tip, but to feel like you're part of somebody having a good time and not just leaving them
Absolutely.
on the edge. So, and then the other thing we used to do, and the caregiver, this one caregiver that would tease me, would be like, please don't sing. But we would, so the community is shaped in a P, and so we would do the circle and go down and then back up, and we would sing all of mom's Christmas carols. Now my mom couldn't
Yes.
pronunciate words, and so what came out was out of tune and not words. But I would sing along and kind of coach her or help her as much as I could. And we had a great time. And to her, I'm assuming she thought she was saying the words to the song, but she had a great time. It didn't matter, and nobody
It doesn't
cared.
matter. No. Yep. And at
So,
the end of the day, it's not right or wrong.
right. Correct, correct. It's us that has to change
Yeah.
our definition of right or
Right.
wrong.
Right.
What are you trying to get from the experience? Happiness and joy. All right. Well,
Yes.
then just go for that. Go for the happy emotions. Don't go for completion of an activity or perfection.
And trying to
Sure. Okay.
correct. Yes.
Number three, do. Oh, you guys, we're all really bad at this. Take care of
Yes.
yourself. Take
Yep.
time for you and establish boundaries because this is a holiday where we're all really frustrated. And we're running around and everything, and so especially if you're trying to get too much done, and your loved one is in the middle of this. Oh, you got to get mom a present, but you got to get her the right present because she has dementia. Will she still like this? And your brain's going 90 miles an hour. You should get frustrated, then you get resentful, like I can't believe I have to
Mhm.
do this, and then you feel guilty, and that can all happen in the space of a minute. So we
Right.
need to step back and take a deep breath. And I've gotten recent emails from people, from caregivers going, I'm so burnt out and I don't know what to do. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, let's
Yeah.
just take a deep breath.
Yes.
Because odds are you're going to go through many years of this. People who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's on average, and most of the dementias, frankly, live 4 to 8 years beyond the point of diagnosis. So,
Mhm.
there's no point in freaking out. Just go with the flow and be sure that you have your own time. Focusing on those happy emotions. And I did have one webinar participant email me and say, I just need some time. But I can't leave my dad alone. What do I do? And she's like, I don't have a lot of money, or he doesn't have a lot of money, and I'm not sure, like, how am I going to get a hold of resources? So while Paige shares her um, answers, I'm going to give you links
Some
to
links.
places where you can get financial help
Yes.
for caregivers. So We Are HFC is Hilarity for Charity. That's Seth Rogen and Lauren Rogen's nonprofit, and they focus on caregivers. So that's the link to that grant. So basically, you have to qualify, right? So you have to show financial need. And then agingresources.org services the GUIDE program, which is
Yes.
you have to be on traditional Medicare. Your loved one has to be on dementia, the dementia person has to be on traditional Medicare. And then you can get caregiver benefits and that type of thing. And then Arch Respite is another organization. And then the Veterans Administration. That is by no means the only help you can get, but it's out
Right.
there. And for you folks in Ontario, there's a whole separate list. If you want that, just reply back to one of the emails I sent you, and I'll send you the list that I have for Ontario. If you need more research done for you, I'm happy to do that. Caregiving, having a caregiver, a professional caregiver come in
Mhm.
can add up. So, Paige, you have some ideas and have some offerings actually to help out the burnt out caregiver at the holidays.
Yes, taking care of yourself, that is a huge, I am always letting caregivers know that you have to take care of yourself. And you're doing your loved one a disservice if you don't take care of yourself. So being, making sure that you're not doing everything and handling all of the, you know, caregiving stress. Look at your family unit. Are there other family members that are willing to come and help you? These are for people that are caring for their loved one at home and it's full time. I highly recommend for those that if you're caring for your loved one at home, please find either a daycare. You've got adult day center in your area. In Arizona, we have a plethora of resources, thank goodness. But there is respite stays. Communities do have respite stay, and there are, adult day centers out there that can do hourly care. I highly recommend that you start a relationship with somebody that you trust and that has these services so you can develop that relationship, and when you need it, you can use it intermittently. Oftentimes we have day stay in our communities, in our memory care communities where it's just like, they're all the paperwork and everything is the same to get in to register, but we set up a schedule and they can come in on an hourly rate. So I have a lady that's going to be doing day stay at our community at our Mesa property 3 days a week for 3 hours. So the daughter
Perfect.
can get through the holidays, get her work done, and also get her shopping and stuff done. So please take advantage of these resources. It's happened too many times where we have seen the caregiver pass away that doesn't have dementia, the one that
Right.
is caring for their loved one. So you have to take care of yourself. So use take advantage of at least looking into these things and take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your loved one.
And that's an excellent point, but I just had another thought, which is too much of togetherness is not a good thing. You've heard of absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's right.
Sometimes your loved one would like to get away from you as well. If they're living
Yeah.
at your house or they see you a lot, getting to a place where they have their cohort of people their same age and doing activities, being entertained and stimulated is good for their brains, and it's a refresher. And so,
Yes.
no matter what relationship you're in, you need space, right? And even they need space. So, doing something like a respite, whether it's a respite day or a respite, for a few days, it's good for both of you, and that's
And they
an
need the
important thing to think of.
engagement. They
Yes,
need
they
the
need the stimulation and the engagement
yes.
and the all the communities are all decked to the nines right now for the holidays. So it's also very stimulating just to sit and look at a Christmas tree and look at all the different ornaments and just relax. All
And
right.
you'd be surprised though too. I just want to make that real
Sure.
quick. You'd be surprised at when you get your loved one with dementia in a setting with other people that have dementia, they actually start to thrive. Because if you can imagine your loved one being in the world and out in public with people that don't have dementia, how stressful that is on them, how fearful that may be. Who's going to come up and ask me a question I don't know? So when they get around other people that do have dementia, they actually do well.
Relax.
They do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
sometimes they
they
have a
really do.
language that they're having conversations. Sometimes I don't, you may not make sense of it, but they are having a conversation.
Right.
So it does work out. It does work out eventually. So get the help for yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, Paige, you have number 4 on the do list.
Okay, so do keep your activities no more than 2 hours because they get tired and they get frustrated. So their attention span is pretty short. I mean, we have residents that have an attention span of about 20, 30 minutes, which that's pretty good. We have other residents that it's every 30 seconds. I mean, they're not communicating. They need to be moving and going. So I have an example. I have a situation in one of our independent living communities where um, their family member took them to a play, and they got up and walked out within about 35 minutes of the play, walked out, was fearful, walked out the front door, and the family was like, what's going on? So we're working with this family. She's going to be moving into a memory care very soon. So it was shocking to the family. And mom used to love to go to plays. And, we really thought that she would enjoy this. This is something that she always loved. Well, she's different now, and it was too overwhelming for her. So, keeping activities small and less is more. But smaller activities are definitely more of a success than longer.
And to that point with the attention span, the thing to keep in mind is uh if so my mom couldn't follow instructions. So anything where people would say, okay, first do this and then do that, you'd lost her. She would get
No.
bored and she'd be ready to leave. And so they have different capacities, but it's mostly from boredom. So like my dad and
Yes.
mom would watch a movie. We'd watch a movie. This is how I knew the wheels were falling off for both of them, actually. We were watching a movie and dad's like, hey, that guy looks just like the guy from the previous scene. And I said, because it is.
It is. Yeah.
And then my mom would just shut down. Like she would just pretend like she was enjoying the movie. but she would have no idea what was going on. And we assume because everybody's looking at the TV or the play or the stage or whatever that they're enjoying it. But in reality, there's some behaviors where they fake it out and they pretend that they're engaged and following their typical
Following.
behaviors. Yeah, and bear in mind, I can't say this word enough. Everyone has bad days, so if you have a day where you've planned an activity and again, you've put a ton of energy into this, be prepared that when you get there, whether it's to their home or a community, you may either have to reschedule or change your plans, do something
That's
differently.
right.
And that's why you have to plan your activities to accommodate these behaviors because
Right.
you just can't spend $100 on a ticket to go to something and then they get up and leave and then everybody else has to leave, right?
Right.
So, you don't want to ruin an activity. And I hate to say the word ruin, but you've teed yourself up for failure basically by
Right.
doing, and we don't want that. That's not what the holidays are about. They're about making happy memories, not, living in the past and trying to do things that are not good activities for someone with dementia. So,
And
okay, let's get to
the public don't, they don't understand that your
no.
loved one has dementia,
No, and they'll
So
get upset.
so
They
it's
get
harder
angry.
on you as the caregiver.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Tell your person to sit down and it's like, well, they don't follow instructions. That's going to be hard. Yeah, you
right.
just kind of
Right.
set yourself up for failure. Yeah. Okay, so number five, pay attention to their comfort level. So I mean that
Yes.
physically. So if they have to go to the bathroom or if they're too hot, they're too cold, but also their comfort level in listening to noise. Is the football game on? Are the guys screaming and yelling and going, go Broncos? Oh, wait a minute, that's me. But are they hanging out in a corner, and if you have a conversation around the table with your 6, 8 to 10 people, uh, are you helping? I mean, they're probably not following the conversation, but I always used to say, "That's right, mom, huh?" Or, "Isn't that right, mom?" And I'd pat her arm and she would nod her head. Now, I'm pretty sure she was nodding her head because she knew that I asked her something and that she should nod her head, but she had no idea what she was nodding her head to. But she wanted
Right.
to feel like she was part of it. And it's so easy because if they're non-communicative, and again, this is mid stages more than it is early stages. Um, if they're non-communicative, they don't have a way to tell you, hey, I have no idea what's going on. And so
Right.
it's just
Right.
about, touching them, putting your hand on their hand, rubbing their back as you walk by,
Hmm.
making them feel like they're part of the group and that they're loved. I mean, that's the bottom line. So pay attention to that comfort level and really, um, how do you help them enjoy themselves? So Paige, what about you?
Exactly. Absolutely. I think, you hit it on the head, and having that dedicated person, and maybe two dedicated people. What if you're cooking and your sister's helping with mom, making sure that they're, really in tune with your loved one's needs and what's going on. Bathroom, big thing. I know with my dad, and this was not even, he didn't, at this time he didn't have any dementia going on, but he wouldn't fly. It was he when he would come to Arizona and come here, he was buying these, I would buy his tickets and for the long, and he's like, I can't fly anymore because I'm not near the bathroom. And I said, oh my gosh, I felt awful. I'm like, well, okay, we're going to get you a direct flight and we're going to get you a seat right next to the bathroom. I mean, that was something that, I was like, of course, because a high
Yeah.
percentage of people, and as we get older, we've got to go to the bathroom a lot. So, making sure that if they're in that setting that someone's taking your loved one to the bathroom, hey, mom, I've got to go to the bathroom. Why don't you go with me? Making sure that we're really paying attention to the nonverbal cues as well.
Right. Yeah.
Their body language.
And you just pointed out something that I want to highlight. I need to go to the bathroom. I need help with something. Can you
Yes.
help me do it? Is the fastest, easiest way to get cooperation
Yep.
from someone with dementia. If you say you need to, or you embarrass them and say, "Do you need to go potty?" Would
No,
you say
no,
that to another adult?
no.
It's I need to go to the restroom. Do you want, let's go together, so that
Right.
because they probably have to go and probably can go. So why not just say, let's go together? I don't want to go by myself. Make it a, kind of a team thing. But always take responsibility yourself for what you want them to
Mhm.
do and say, I need to, go to the doctors and I don't want to go by myself. I need to go for a walk and I need to get some exercise. I don't want to do it by myself. Will you come with me and make it better? Because that's, especially if you're an adult child, that's what your parents want. They're still your parents. They're still in there and they still want to help their kids. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
Paige, it's to almost end of the hour. What's number 6?
Number 6 is please just, it's all about having fun and creating happy, loving moments. We know that the holidays are challenging. They're challenging even without, I mean, they're challenging without dementia. So you throw that into the mix. Just have fun. You do not, you can have an agenda, just have bullet points. There is not going to be a schedule because I'm telling you, your schedule will change. You have to change with them. They are your agenda. You
Yep.
follow with them. You know, everything's fluid, subject to change, and just love on them and compliment them and tell them, I remember when we had these memories. And bring that to them instead of them having to try to remember. And
Yeah.
it's just about us having to pivot and adjust. It really is. It's about
Yeah.
us changing.
Yep. When we go to the care community, if there wasn't music at the time that I was there, I would just grab my phone and pull up Doris Day or Perry
Oh
Como,
yeah.
Bing Crosby, pick any of those and play it. And then we would just sit in one of the quiet spaces and sing so that we wouldn't interrupt anybody else.
Music
And,
is one of the top redirectors. You're absolutely
Yep.
right, Pam.
Well, and they have memories to those things, and they rem
Mhm.
and honestly, music is just a melody is such a pleasing thing. It's calming, it's relaxing. But if they see you having fun, this is the number one thing I'd like you to take from this session is if they see you having fun, they're going to have fun as well because they know who you are and they realize that if you're happy, they're happy, and that's just part of that relationship. So, that's the key to do the do's and don'ts. Does anybody have? I don't think we had any other questions after Steve, so I think we're
No,
good. So just to remind you guys, reply back to one of the emails that I've sent as the reminders, or email me at Pam at it's notthatsimple.com, and Paige put her information in before, but she just put it in again because she's ahead of me. I think I always forget how many S's and T's I have, and it's not that simple. So, guys, reach out to us, reach out to Paige. She has been an amazing resource to my clients who are in need of a care community and aren't sure what a care community is, what it isn't. Is it a nursing home? And it, of course, is not. So, thank
no.
you all for attending and happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And Pam, thank you as always. And everyone,
Thank you,
have a
Paige.
wonderful, wonderful holiday. And we will see you in 2026.
January 27th, mark your calendars.
That's
Okay, you
right.
guys, take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.